On our last visit to this abandoned public footpath, we discovered 2 massive silver shillings that were lost at a time that saw one of the deadliest conflicts to ever take place on British soil, the English Civil Wars.
But the real question is there more Civil War history hiding at the top of this steep hill? Join us as we battle the elements on our return to find out.
Right, hello everybody, we're back, and you know why? It's because we had this incredible find last episode. Now it's super windy, but that's not going to stop us.
No, we're about to do some gridding today to see if we can add to the treasure hoard.
Absolutely. For any of you guys who don't know what gridding is, it just means we're going to be doing strict regimented lines, covering every inch of ground to make sure that we don't miss anything. So if it's here, we're going to find it.
Our last visit here saw us making a find that we aren't likely to forget for a long time.
These silver shillings couldn't be more intertwined into one of the most violent periods of British history, the English Civil Wars. Minted under James I and Charles I, they depict 2 monarchs whose individual rules pushed Britain to the point of a rebellion.
After Elizabeth I's death in 1603, her cousin James Stuart, already King James VI of Scotland, ascended to the British throne, becoming King James I of England and Ireland and uniting the 3 kingdoms under a single ruler for the very first time. Only he had some policies and beliefs that the people disagreed with, disagreements that ultimately laid the groundwork for his own son Charles I's execution. These disagreements, largely over religion and money, almost caused the demise of James I himself, as he narrowly escaped a violent assassination attempt in 1605 known as the Gunpowder Plot. He died of natural causes 20 years later, succeeded by his son Charles I, who only exacerbated the tensions that had been growing under his father. Naturally, the King and Parliament's inability to work together or agree on these policies caused the English Civil Wars, 3 separate conflicts that were fought between 1642 and 1651, and they touched every section of society, with the proportion of the population killed comparable to the loss of the First World War. In 1649, Charles I himself was beheaded, the only instance of the execution of an English king and resulting in the only period of republican rule in British history.
But are these shillings up here alone, or are there more traces of the Civil Wars waiting for us? It's not too long before we get our first signal, a 1617 on the VDI. Is this going to be our first find?
This button reveals a tale of deceit that was happening in the 18th century.
It's the so-called golden age of buttons, where the button-making industry was at its height, and buttons were being produced in a huge variety of designs and styles. Only there's a problem.
You see, it is commonplace for base metal buttons such as this one to be given a coating of gold or silver, gilded to have the appearance of precious metal. However, there were many unscrupulous button makers out there, using such little gold plating that it wore off very quickly. This led to button makers approaching Parliament with a demand for a new law to prevent this cheapskate practice. Unfortunately, the amount of gilding that gets passed as the minimum amount is still very low, leading to claims like this one stamped into the back of our button. It reads treble gilt, a mark of authentication and statement by the button maker that their button is quality, apparently triple gilded and made to last.
Very clean 1415. Let's hope it's not a shoddy. What is it? It's a shoddy. No. So this is the best signal I've heard so far, apart from the last one. That was a shoddy. So who knows? What is it?
Is it a buckle?
Might be a
I
buckle.
think it's a buckle. Look at that, look.
Brilliant.
It's a good one, that. It's got the pin, look.
This is the type of buckle you would have worn in Tudor England. It's a large rectangular buckle that dates from the 15th or 16th century and likely would have fastened either a waist or sword belt. You wouldn't have possessed oodles of money owning a buckle like this one, as there were certainly a lot more fancier options out there, but it does have some lovely moulded baluster-shaped ends that separate it out from the pure, basic utilitarian forms. The execution of Charles I in 1649 saw the only period in British history where England was ruled by a republic, as victorious military leader Oliver Cromwell formed the Commonwealth. But this period of republic rule only lasted 11 years until Cromwell's death caused a lack of confidence that ended in the restoration of the monarchy with Charles II in 1660. Yet the discontentment over religion and monarchy power that caused the civil wars in the first place was still underlying and almost pushed England into another civil war in 1688. Instead, we had the Glorious Revolution, which saw the nation overthrow the Catholic King James II, replacing him with his Protestant daughter Mary. This spurred the creation of the Act of Settlement in 1701, a law which ensured a Protestant succession to the English throne and restricted the power of the Crown. It ultimately changed the way that Britain was governed, bringing us closer to the constitutional monarchy that we have today, and is an indirect result of the tensions and unrest that caused the English civil wars.
We've got a very interesting signal here. It covers quite an area, 27, 28, down to sort of like 24, 25. It's either something really big, or is it a scattered, is it more of the horde? That's what we don't know yet, and I think we're going to have to dig it to find out.
Oh, there's definitely something around here, look.
I
think.
Ooh, looks like we've got a coin.
Oh, looks like a coin.
We've got a coin spill.
Is this a second horde? That's looking... It's a halfpenny subscription, I think. Not too sure who's on there. Looks like Britannia side.
Brilliant.
Do you think that's the only one? Do you think
No,
there's more?
there's definitely more here.
There's got to be more, hasn't there?
There's quite a few signals, so my thoughts is yes.
That's another one, look. Quite thick ones, these ones, you know.
Yeah.
And they might have some real age to them.
Might
yeah?
have some good age.
I think they. Should we clean them all up together at the end?
Yeah, definitely.
Right, that's at least two.
That's two. Who don't you got, Ellie?
I don't know, it's really hard to tell, you know. Look, the second horde. Couple horde. Double coins once again. Definitely Britannia. I'm really not sure what or who is on this side.
Yeah, not too much left.
It's really hard to tell, so have a look at the other one.
These two halfpennies come from a time where the repercussions of the English civil wars saw England ruled by a monarch who couldn't even speak English.
That's the bust, I think.
Yeah.
And then we've got, again, I believe Britannia again on this side. So definitely both halfpennies.
But which era?
Which era? I don't think...
Well, it looks like there's a bit of an edge around that one.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? I'm thinking maybe George III, potentially.
Wow.
Yeah, I think George III.
Oh yeah, I
You see his
can see
head?
him.
Yeah? Is he what they call a dump halfpenny? A dump penny?
Oh.
I can see his text as well, look.
Oh yeah, it's starting to come up now.
Two Georgies on the edge of the hill.
Welcome to the House of Hanover, a royal dynasty who weren't meant to be next in line to the throne. But after the Act of Settlement in 1701, the British line of succession was changed. German-born George I, who was previously only 52nd in line to the throne, suddenly found himself as King of England, as the next Protestant heir. And he couldn't even speak very much English, with his crowning ceremonies having to be held mostly in Latin, as his ministers couldn't speak German either. Nevertheless, the Hanoverian period that followed saw a relatively stable time for Britain, a calm after the unrest experienced under the Stuarts. This could have been down to the longevity of its 6 monarchs who ruled from 1714 to 1901. Of these 6, 2 appear on our coins, George I and George III, who was the longest reigning king in British history. 2 monarchs who couldn't have ever predicted their succession to the English throne.
It's very high 30s.
This could be one of the most dangerous pieces of equipment carried around by a musketeer.
So the dig's taken a crazy turn. We found, we had to call in an expert because it's an alarming shape, but we've actually determined, and we think it's a Civil War powder flask that they would have used for their muskets, which is pretty cool if you ask me. I mean, look at that. How often do you see a complete lead vessel like that?
I know, it's incredible.
It's entirely lead, it's pretty heavy.
I mean, the shape was pretty sus.
Yeah, it was pretty sus. We were a bit concerned. So we've had a little look at it.
We've had a look inside because, I mean, It's kind of the perfect vessel for hiding coins in.
Sadly, there were no gold coins lurking inside. Just, not a lot, to be honest. But, I mean, the thing in itself is pretty...
It's really cool.
Pretty cool, isn't it?
Attached to a leather belt called a bandolier that slung across a musketeer's chest would have been 12 small bottles, which contained pre-measured quantities of gunpowder, just enough for one shot. They also would have carried one of these, a powder flask containing a large supply of gunpowder for restocking. Possessing such a large quantity of gunpowder attached to your body was naturally a massive hazard, especially as the most common weapon, the matchlock muskets, used during the English Civil War were fired using a piece of burning cord that hung from the gun. Accidents were unfortunately rather common, as recorded by Royalist surgeon Richard Wiseman in a book he published describing his treatments during the English Civil Wars. He writes, "A soldier in the time of service being in the Fort Royal at Worcester hastily fetched his bonnet full of gunpowder, and whilst he was filling his bandoliers, another soldier carelessly bestrides it to make a shot at one of the enemies which he saw lying perdu. In firing his musket, a spark flew out of the pan and gave fire to the powder underneath him, and grievously burned the hands, arms, breast, neck and face of him that was filling his bandoliers."
A disastrous accident and an artefact that has likely seen more than its fair share of violence.
Now we're on the Civil War artefacts.
I know, that's super cool.
Super
I mean,
cool.
it's the biggest lead vessel we've ever found.
I mean, Civil War powder flask, how cool's that? Still hella windy as always. Look at my hair. I've had to take the hat off.
If you're enjoying this adventure with us, make sure you hit that subscribe button and support our channel. This lead ball was one of the major causes of death in the English Civil Wars, only it wasn't the initial strike that would kill you. This is a musket ball, the Civil War soldiers' answer to a bullet, a small ball of lead that was packed into the barrel of a musket along with paper wadding and gunpowder and fired across the battlefield. Made of lead and often irregularly shaped, they would punch rather than cut their way through a target like a modern bullet, leaving behind shattered bone and horrific injuries. But it wouldn't be the injuries the victim had to worry about, instead it would be the infection afterwards, as the body fought against all the foreign bodies the musket dragged into the wound with it. These musket balls had to be removed to prevent infection. There were two forms of tools that were used for this removal. First, something known as a terebellum, which was a long, thin implement ending in a screw thread, would be inserted into the wound and the screw tip drilled into the soft lead of the ball to allow it to be pulled out. Alternatively, long forceps or pliers, which were available in a wide diversity of shapes, known as a crow's bill, crane's bill and lizard mouth, were used. The 17th century surgeons had to deal with an unprecedented number of gunshot wounds caused by these musket balls on British soil, and the injuries were often life-changing.
Well, I think it's time to call it a day.
Yeah, it's absolutely freezing. The wind is so cold. I think it's been quite full on actually.
It's so loud here in the wind.
I know. It's getting a bit dark too, so the footage is getting a bit sketchy.
Yeah, it is. But no more coins. Well, we did
Apart
find
from those two half pennies.
Second half penny hoard, but no more shillings hoard. But you never know. Have another look.
Yeah, I think we'll continue the search.
Continue the search. So they say a field is never done, so we're back on the windiest spot on our permission, searching for more of the Civil War coin hoard.
First good signal, 2021. Could be a coin. What have we got down there? I don't know if it's lead. Maybe lead.
So there's something a bit unusual in here, I think. It's looking leadish.
Have we got a lead toy of some
I think we've got a lead toy.
Oh, is it a bit of
I think it's like
a cap gun?
I think it's like a lead revolver of some sort, I think.
Oh yeah.
There you go, look. Definitely, it's an old, some old child's cap guns up here. So it seems like lots of dust of what it once was. And then a good fragment. That definitely looks like it was once some kind of revolver, cap gun sort of thing.
There's not much left of it.
Bit of a military theme up here, it seems.
Nice little 12-13 here. Could be too nice. Could be a pellet, we don't know.
Right, I think we're right on top of it. So what do you think it's going to be? My bet's on a button.
Button, lead. Did sound quite good though.
How good does it sound?
Ooh,
Ooh, what's that there?
that's interesting.
What is it? Bit
there
of
a bit of-
textile
Yeah, a
attached
bit
to
of
it, looks
fabric. Is there
like.
going to be a button attached?
Oh, no.
Wait, what?
It's a shotgun shell.
Oh!
What do you think it is, Lucy?
Dunno.
It's
What signal was it?
1819. It's one of the great plagues of metal detecting. And it's not a button.
And it's not a shoddy.
And it's not a
I
shotty.
don't know, what is it?
It is
Oh,
a horseshoe.
No, the horseshoe.
Look at the size of that one. That would have been a beast, look. It was as big as my head.
Has
Look
it
at
even
that.
got some of the
You've
nails,
got some of the nails in,
still
look.
in it?
Yeah, that's a real beast, that one.
I got the craziest signal here.
How crazy is crazy?
So going to 30s. I have no idea what it is. It could be big trash. Could be another powder flask. Who knows? I thought it was a cam for a second, but I don't think it is.
Chrome,
Something off a car?
potentially. Bit of road trash. Looks like road trash, doesn't it?
Since the discovery of our silver shillings and the intact Civil War powder flask, the metal detecting gods have certainly been working against us. As is law, it seems we are cursed, destined to only find trash until we've dug enough that they deem us worthy of the next find.
What do you think it's gonna? Oh, I know what it is.
Oh no!
Why?
Not a
Why?
shoddy.
It's always a shoddy.
Oh,
Bastard.
plagued by them today.
Plagued, absolutely plagued.
Very good 23 here.
Seems solid.
Very solid.
Something in here. Ooh, what's that?
What we got?
There we go. There's
Ta-da.
something there. Ooh, what is it? It's got a bit of decoration on it, actually.
Yeah. Is it a big button?
Is it
or
a huge
brooch?
button? I think it's a huge
Massive
button.
button.
But can you see the detail on it?
Yeah.
Let me just clean that up. She looks really nice. Wow. So we're not sure if it's
Yeah.
a button or some kind of mount.
I think it might be a mount.
It's quite a big
because of the
fixing on the back. But I think there might be a horse on it.
I think so.
The spray's being pitiful today. I think we do have a horse on there.
Yeah, definitely. That's really cool. Is that some sort of like tack or bridle mount?
It could be. That's so cool. The
You can
little
definitely
horse
see a
on
little
there.
horse on there. Oh wow.
I think he's holding a little sword.
I think he is. I can definitely see
Little chap and a horse holding a
something
sword.
there. I mean, I have no idea how old this is.
It's quite beautiful though, isn't it? What a find!
So cool.
What a little find! I love it.
This is a decorative mount from a horse harness that most likely comes from the 18th century and depicts a figure astride a horse holding a sword high into the air.
It's a clear military image depicting a proud member of cavalry, but what does it mean? There are only a few recorded examples on the database, and no one seems to have any context behind them. However, horses have been used in battle and military context for over 5,000 years, since they first dragged chariots onto the battlefield, and at the time of the 18th century, from when it is believed this mount dates from, Britain finds itself in the Napoleonic Wars, a time where cavalry units were crucial and tens of thousands of horses were sent into battle. The wars also presented the threat of a French invasion on British soil, which caused the creation of yeomanry units. First starting with cavalry troops, these yeomanry units were a kind of voluntary military reserve. They often supported the local and civil authorities, and even continued to do so until the mid-19th century, when police forces eventually took over this role. It was also common for cavalry and yeomanry units to have a particular harness mount or badge that identified them, and this mount's imagery certainly seems in the right area. So could it have been connected to someone in one of these units?
So there's something a little bit shiny in here. And
Can't quite tell if it's a button or a coin at this stage.
can't quite tell what it's going to be. So let's get it out, shall we? Oh, oh, oh.
Is it
It is a super shiny washer.
washer?
Oh, why?
This thimble dates from 1520 to 1620 AD and was manufactured in the German town of Nuremberg, the world capital of thimble production in the 16th century. Located on the river Pegnitz in Franconia, Bavaria, Nuremberg flourished as a centre for trade and industry, but then they made an invention that firmly established themselves as one of the main trade centres of Europe. They invented a better way to make brass. This changed the method of thimble making, allowing the Nuremberg thimble makers to craft better, more comfortable and cheaper thimbles. Immediately, the Nuremberg officials realised they needed to contain and capitalise on this new industry, so prohibited its thimble makers from leaving the town to keep this new revolutionary method of producing brass a secret. This worked for around 200 years, and Nuremberg was the only city in Europe with craftsmen able to make these thimbles.
14.
I think I might have a little buckle.
This is one of the most commonly found metal artefacts, the humble buckle, an artifact that has been with us since its invention in Roman times, where it was used to fasten armour. This buckle dates from the late Middle Ages and is a marker of a change in fashion trends. Prior to the 14th century, buckles were largely D or oval shaped in form, but as technology developed and fashion shifted towards more tighter and figure-hugging silhouettes, the rectangular buckle came in to take over. By the 16th century, buckles were almost exclusively rectangular, and it did matter how up-to-date in fashion you were, as a person's dress at this time was their main display of social status, wealth and identity, and yes, that even included what buckle you wore. Looking back on our dig, we are astounded to have found more evidence of the English Civil Wars on our return to this hill. But what do you think? Is there more history hiding up here, or should we begin again in a new location, a fresh start with the metal detecting gods, and let the moles get to work?
If you'd like to come on another digging adventure with us, then check out this video. Thanks for watching!